Hey mamas, welcome to another episode of Confessions of the Small Biz Mama. My name is Kristen Ingram, and confession today, I wear this shirt way too much when I'm recording. Okay, no, but that's not what today's episode is all about. Okay, so today I want to talk about parenting in the new reality and kind of some tough decisions that we made, and kind of just some stuff to think about as we start rolling into fall, and what are we going to do with our kids, and how are we going to parent, and what do we want to keep, and what do we want to go, and all that stuff. So I hope you'll join me for this episode as we talk about some confessions related to parenting in the new reality. So I think for me, this has been really hard because, as you guys know, I run two businesses, and there's never enough time in the day. There's just not. I mean, like I'm recording this, it's 9:45 at night when I'm recording this episode. And it's funny because I can hear Eric is still awake. Welcome to the new Florida reality. That's something that I was not prepared for. It is so late here when the sun goes down, and Eric has a really hard time going to sleep until it is like pitch dark. So that's a fun part of our new reality. But I'm also recording this as the case numbers in Florida are going up again, the COVID numbers, and a lot of parents are trying to figure out what they're going to do for fall. It's funny because it's like, it feels like last fall all over again. Except, down here, the vaccination rates aren't, we're only at about 50% down here. So when we first got here and we were trying to manage everything and all the things, we ended up putting Eric in a summer camp, like a Montessori summer camp at a Montessori school. And initially he really liked it and he thought that it was pretty awesome. And then he kind of decided he missed mom and dad, which was cool because we really missed him too. So we were actually thinking about keeping him there in the fall, and letting him stay in the program. And then, like, I don't know, my mama heart just kind of went, you know what, I've always wanted to homeschool. Even before we had Eric, when we didn't think we could have kids, we always told people if we had kids, we were going to homeschool. And there's just something about working with Eric, and I love it. I really do. It lights my fire up. And seeing him be so intellectually curious, So we decided that we are going to, we're going to homeschool. And so we're pulling him out so that he can be home with us. And so I'm super excited. And then I'm super scared. I can't even tell you, I'm so afraid because I know how much work I have to do. I know how much stuff we have going on. And so it's really hard to think about all of those things, and how we're going to manage that. And so I think, for us, I'm looking at my schedule and, who else potentially we can hire to help us. And then balancing that with a budget and the reality of income. And so, I think that this is something we all face, right? Is that we have a limited amount of money, a limited amount of time. And so how do we manage that for the best life for our kids, right? And the best life for us. So I think that's kind of been the biggest thing that we've tried to manage. I know for a lot of families, just being able to kind of spend more time together, to be conscious of that, to have dinners together, um, has really been a game changer. And so I hope that you'll spend some time figuring out what's worked and what hasn't worked, what you're going to keep, what's going to go. Um, one thing for us is like, we just love having dinner together. And, you know, like it was funny because tonight, like we were sitting out on the lanai, and I don't think it matters what we have for dinner, whether I make dinner, we pick up dinner, whatever, but, sitting outside on our lanai, just like talking and laughing and eating dinner is just like the best part of our day, I think. And so really for us to be able to do that together is super, super important to all of us, including Eric. And so that's definitely going to stay. Trying to do something together after dinner is very important to us. So that's going to stay. It's funny, like even like lazy Saturday mornings. I love those. They're so fun. That's going to stay. So, kind of make your list of things that like, what do we want to avoid? Right. And so like, I think part of the thing for us that really made the decision easier about Eric staying home, I think I've mentioned on the show before about how, Jeff and I had such rushed mornings when we both worked outside the home, and how we'd have to like, spring out of bed and take a shower and get dressed and, get in the car and commute to wherever we were working. And then one of the nice things about being self-employed was not having that rush anymore. And I remember when we started sending Eric to school, or to camp, we were rushing because it was like, oh my God, we got to get up and there's got to be an alarm. We got to have breakfast. We got to have lunch ready. We got to get dressed. We got to get out the door to get Eric to school. And I was like, oh, I hate that, and so it's funny because I think that kind of made the decision a little bit easier too, maybe. But yeah, so I think, I think the other thing, and I know it's funny because I made this episode a lot more about the decision to keep him home than I was planning to. But I think too, thinking about all the things that we wanted to do, with him, library programs, and there's programs at the zoo that we're interested in doing. And just kind of the thought that like, if he's in school every day, am I going to take him out of school to do those things? And, how does that jive with the kind of life that we want to have? Right. And that's ultimately what I kept going back to, is what does that life look like that we wanted to have, that we moved here for? And that's kind of what I'm hoping that you guys do, is you're starting to think about, okay, as life, returns to normal, or this new normal, or whatever we want to call it, like, what do we want it to look like? Because if we are not intentional about designing this life, right? And it's funny because I've been doing this a lot on calls for in bookkeeper training school with the Empowered Bookkeeper Network, is I want you to visualize the type of business that you want and the type of life that you want, and what does that look like, and what do you look like, and how do you feel, and how much do you work, and how many clients do you have? Because I want you guys to be really intentional about that. And I think when you don't think about what you want your life to look like, you just kind of flow with it. Even if you don't like it, even if it's not what you want. And that's just not what I want for you folks. As moms, we work really hard. And sometimes we just don't take the time to think like, you know what? This is what I want. This is what I want for me. This is what I want for my kids. And as I started being more intentional in our days and in our mornings, I've just really, I've enjoyed it more. And, even though it's, almost 10 o'clock at night, and, there are times I'm really stressed out, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the time that we have together in those moments. And that's what I want for all of you, is I want you to have the time and the memory and the moments. So yeah. So let me know. Hit me up on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/allKristenIngram, because we've consolidated all of our pages into one page. I'm so excited about this. We've consolidated everything into one page. And I think that it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, so all Kristen Ingram, and hit me up and let me know what you're planning for this fall, and what you're going to be intentional about with your family. All right. So thank you so much for joining us. And I I really love how you guys have supported the show, how you supported us. Thank you so much. We could not do this without all of you. And so thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you who listen to the show, who share the show. So thanks again. And check out smallbizmama.com for all of our episodes and all the ways to connect with us. All right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Small Biz Mama with Kristen Ingram. If you'd like to learn how to create more margin in your life, please visit us at smallbizmama.com. That's smallbizmama.com.